going on, everyone? Today I'm going to show you 5 unconventional, uncommon smashing and foam rolling methods that you can use at home, and they're just with tools that you would not expect to normally be using, such as a foam roller, a lacrosse ball, or anything like that. I'm going to show you some random tools that I like to use outside of those conventional ones that you can just probably pick up at a hardware store, or you might actually have something similar at your house already. So without further ado, let's get the first tool I'd like to show you is actually just a broomstick, basically. You can grab, this is a little bit thicker, but you can grab any standard broomstick, and I find them to be pretty useful when it comes to rolling out my legs in particular. So what I often do is I'll be seated, but what I actually do is I'll take the roller and just kind of work the quads and try to create some separation between them, and this actually works really, really well. It's a common item you can find just about anywhere. And the point of doing this is you don't want to flex your leg while you're actually rolling. You don't want to tense up. You want to keep it all loose. So don't try to put your weight off of the leg that you're working, and just basically roll it out. So I like to go with a sort of downward and then out to the side movement, or in, or I can go up. And that's tool number 1, works quite well. Another method for this is actually you can work the armpits just to get right up in there. It can be a little bit uncomfortable, but sometimes this just really helps work the shoulder. So you can kind of get right in. And I actually like to use this method as well for working my internal and external rotation. You take the same tool, put it behind your back, grab it with your hand, and you're basically just cranking the shoulder and working that internal rotation. And you can do it on both sides, so it works quite nicely. So tool number 2 is actually just a softball. Now this is a great replacement if you've seen the mobility wad. I believe it's called a Nova, something, Supernova. So this is very similar size to that. It's a little bit bigger than a lacrosse ball. It works extremely well, just because I find that a lacrosse ball is a bit too small to get into some areas. So personally I like to use this to roll out the glutes, which I'm going to do right now. And this just allows me to sort of work the glutes, as you can see here. Or sometimes I really like to get into the shoulder with it, so this is another really, really great tool to use. And you can find it anywhere. So another really great tool you can use is just a standard butter knife. I actually used this in a previous video, and if you didn't watch that one, I don't even remember which one it was, but I'm going to show you again here how this is very useful for breaking up a lot of tissue. I personally like to use it in my calves and my Achilles, and sometimes I'll work my way all the way up to and around the knee. So the way to do that, you kind of just want to grab your leg and just make sure you're nice and tight, like you're not too loose here in this position. You're kind of stretching out and you're flexing the foot, and you basically want to scrape all around the Achilles and just loosen up some of that tissue there, because it gets all wound up and bound up, and it makes it a little tricky to squat and deadlift and do all those movements. So you kind of just want to scrape lightly, and it's going to feel a little bit nervy in some spots, and you'll know what I mean when you get there. And when that happens, you just want to hang out in that area and do a few scrapes. And you'll notice as you continue to scrape, your flexion on your foot, you'll be able to bring it back and back and back and back more, and you'll be able to pull it, and you're going to increase your range of motion of your ankles as you do this movement. So it's really, really great to warm up before your squats with a butter knife. So another really great tool you can use, and it's actually pretty uncommon as well, and I'm not sure really where you can find them, but I started buying these massage stones, and you can get them in like different shapes and different sizes, and what this allows you to do is actually just break up the tissue. It's very similar to, you know, I'm not really sure what it's similar to, but what you can actually do is just take it and jam it in the areas that need work. So for me, it's often in the chest. I like to sort of just take it. Can you sit down? Can you sit? Can you sit? Sit down. Sit. Thank you. So you can take it and sort of work your chest. I like to kind of stretch out against a wall and just run it along the muscle fibers and really stretch everything out. So this is a pretty uncommon tool. Honestly, I haven't really seen it anywhere, and I haven't really seen anyone else using it, but it works really nicely. So this is actually made of, it's like a metal type of stone. It's called hermite or hermatite, something like that. But you can really get any type of stone and it'll do the trick. Just make sure that it's big enough that you can actually get a good grip on it so you can leverage nicely, so that when you are working at the areas, you're able to really just, you know, grab hold and jam in there. So pretty uncommon. Not sure if you got one of these around, but if you can find anything that's solid like this, it'll work really nicely. Last but not least, I'd like to show you a somewhat more conventional method of smashing, which is actually just using a kettlebell. Now what you can do is just work this large kettlebell or a dumbbell or anything that's really heavy. If you can find like a heavy stone or something like that, it'll work really nicely too. Basically, you just want to rest it on an area that feels a little bit tight, a little bit dense in terms of just the overall muscle tissue. Sometimes it can get all wound up together, and you want to take the heavy weight and just rest it on the knotted, sort of tense area until you feel a slight release, and then you can kind of move it around and groove it around in the area and just loosen up all that tissue. What's really great about a kettlebell is it actually gives you a handle here, so you can kind of maneuver it really, really easily. Versus a dumbbell, it's a little bit more tricky, and if you have a stone or something else that's heavy, that might be pretty hard as well. This is a great exercise or a great smashing technique if you have a buddy or a friend that can help you out, especially if you're working your back, some areas that you can't quite reach. They'll be able to assist pretty easily. So this is a great method to use. I like to use it after, even before, using the butter knife approach, just because I find this sort of releases a lot of the tension, and then the heavier smashing approach just kind of breaks up the more dense tissues. So all of it works really nicely together. Sometimes I'll even use the stone afterwards. So like I'll work my knee with a kettlebell, and then with the stone after, I'll just kind of get in there and floss. It's almost like flossing around the kneecap itself and just trying to create separation in the quads here, and just really, I find my patella gets a little bit knotted up with everything else. So it all really helps nicely in that area. So try this method out. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you like this video. I also did another video where I showed more conventional methods of foam rolling and stretching, so I'll link that in the description below. Have a look at that as well. If you want to see more content like this, let me know. I have a bunch of unconventional tools I frequently use, so I just figured I'd share a few of them with you today. So that's all I wanted to share with you. Let me know if you liked the video, like it if you did, comment down below, and I will catch you again next time.